Hey everybody, welcome to the Dev Talk Show. It's October 10th, that's 10:10. I guess in binary that's like
Yeah.
10, is it? It's that early for
I
me. I
I
think
haven't
it
had enough
is.
coffee to do that.
Yeah. So it's 10s are wild today, and I'm here with my co-host Rich Ross. How's it going, Rich?
Good, Chris. How you been? It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Last week was nutty. Hockey season in full swing, so a lot of that, but even then a lot of other things going on that kept both of us, I think, from being available here in the mornings. But here we
Yeah.
are, and we're back to talk about .NET 8, ASP.NET Core 8, and what's
It's getting
happening in
closer.
Blazor. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is getting closer. Yeah, uh, I always forget to have the date available for .NET Conf, but .NET Conf 2023, November 14th through the 16th, so about a month away. And I'm not speaking for the ASP.NET team, but they've certainly spoken for themselves a couple times that .NET 8 comes out at .NET Conf. So good luck, best wishes to the team. I can only imagine what the last month before .NET Conf must be like. I can't even imagine.
I'm sure it is quite hectic, to say the least.
Yeah. So we do know that another release candidate will come first. At least that's what was said after RC1, is they thought they'd have one more. And then and I think on this show we'll see how that makes some of the final projects look. But
Mm-hmm.
but today I thought we'd talk about components, and it's because when I look at ASP.NET Core, there are several types of projects you can create. And I mean, you could create websites. You can also create what we generally think of as web APIs. And then, anything in between that you want to do with the web and with HTTP. But I think those are the two major focuses.
Mm-hmm.
And we have frameworks that help us build these things so that we don't have to start at the lower level and say, okay, here's the HTML I want, ship it out. We have MVC, we have Razor Pages, and we have Blazor on the website side.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the three of them, they all have different architectural styles, and they represent, I think, a little bit of both the past and present of web development, not necessarily in chronological order, but Razor Pages, I think it reminds me and a lot of people, maybe even of like a classic ASP approach of where you are page based. You are creating you are creating your site page by page by putting up the actual markup and whatever script that you want into a file, like a CSHTML file. And then you have code snippets of sorts, it's called Razor syntax, right in there that will fill in the server side blanks, I guess. And that's how classic ASP worked. And that's how a lot of frameworks today still work. And Razor Pages gives you that page-based focus, where MVC brought an architectural style of separating concerns between your code models, your views, which was where most of your markup and Razor syntax lived, and then controllers, which was code. And a lot has come out since, a lot of thinking has changed or maybe evolved since the MVC years in 2011. I think in the early days, we probably all put our business logic right there in the controller, and maybe still do in a small, quick build. But for reusability, I think there's been a lot of discussion of, we've got plenty of folks out there talking about onion architecture or clean architecture. Um, and there are clean architecture builds for ASP.NET Core that might be real interesting to look at. But then when we come to Blazor, Blazor takes after the modern SPA framework that arose maybe in the last 10 years or so. And that's like our friends at Vue and React and so on, where you take a component first approach and you build your page out of components. And I think that's really the architectural style of Blazor. And it gives ASP.NET Core developers the ability to say what's the style that works for me, whether it is quote unquote modern or even a little bit more traditional, but it might work for you to build a server-side site that's not very interactive because that's the information you have to display. You might be on mute though, are you?
Okay, that early cough.
Yeah.
So I did
Yeah.
that. So sorry. No, I think that's interesting. Interesting thoughts around it, and I had not thought. Although I do, right? Because one of the constructs around Blazor is the component, and as I look at a page, I think of, well, that's kind of reusable. That I can and start to think of, creating the smaller Lego bricks, as it were, that compose up my site.
Yep, I think that's basically it, and I think that model kind of took the world by storm, and at least a lot of it. I mean, maybe not everybody. There's probably still plenty of folks that are out there saying, "Look, that's great, but I don't necessarily need it." So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to jump right in and see how much we can get done here. If you've been following along here on the Dev Talk Show, you know we are on Twitch, YouTube, and today also on LinkedIn, but under my personal profile, just to try and see if people notice that we're on. And if you follow the Dev Talk Show on LinkedIn, which wouldn't it have been great if I had a link ready? If you follow the Dev Talk Show on LinkedIn and we get to 150 followers, then the Dev Talk Show will stream on LinkedIn, which is great. So, we'll see about getting a show up there eventually. I know there's definitely there's a link that is not this. It is not with the company name and all that. There's a way to do it.
Okay.
Did I discover it? No, I didn't. Okay, so that's not it. So that's all right. We'll go on there. What I'm going to do now is let's share my screen and we'll get started. Thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully there's been enough time for folks to come in, see the stream is on its way, and let's go. We're going to present, share screen. Okay, and I like that. Okay, so StreamYard said, "Oh, you must want that," and I said, "No, not quite. That's okay though.
Close.
Not bad." All right, so this is the current site, and this site is building. There is an Azure pipeline, and it was so long ago that it's a classic pipeline, and it is sitting in Azure DevOps, in Azure DevOps repos, and it's been fine. If you're wondering, we're gonna take a look at the code. It is mostly, in fact, completely a static experience, and the episodes that are listed here were selected, so they're not being pulled from anything. And some of the things we'd like to change is have a little bit of it being data fed in terms of the latest show and so on. And then there's an about page, and what we can do. This is really just the beginning here. So the first step is what would it take for us to replicate this?
Mm-hmm.
And so taking a look at the repo, we have the code. And I was pretty sure, yes, this was done with MVC. This was done with MVC. So we've got our model, view, and then the controller doesn't probably do, I bet you doesn't do anything more than call the view, right? So, I mean, there wasn't much to it. So this is perfect, except what we're going to do is here we are, and this happens to be Visual Studio 2022 preview, because for now, if you want to use Visual Studio, you need the preview edition to use .NET 8 and ASP.NET Core 8.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use Visual Studio Code, that's fine. You can use Visual Studio Code. And I actually don't know what the current status of some other IDEs are, but in any case, let's take a look at how we start this. And if you've been watching us on this channel for a little while, you've seen us do this already. When you say File New Project, I'm going to go ahead and type Blazor so we can see what's in here. And we have this Blazor server app, this Blazor WebAssembly app, but If we scroll down a little bit more, we have, this is a new template called the Blazor web app. And the reason why is because not so long ago, maybe a year ago, maybe not quite that long ago, there was a concept of Blazor United. And I think the idea there was to really say that the future of Blazor is to make it so that you as the developer don't have to make hosting choices so early. You don't have to make architectural choices so early. Instead, we have one project type, just Blazor. And so the Blazor United name is not, that was just for talking about the concept. This is just Blazor, the Blazor web app. You won't see this template in the Visual Studio 2022 GA, the release, and you also will not see it like in .NET 7. In .NET 8, from the command line, you say .NET New Blazor. And so that's what I'm going to click here. And we're going to say, we're going to call this, I think, let me see, what, because I have the old code on my machine, so I want to make sure. Okay, cool. So we're going to say the Dev Talk Show. It'll be the project name. So I'm going to make it the Dev Talk Show web. I don't know if I'll not like that later, but have a different solution because we might have some other projects in here for the new iteration. But then the project is the Dev Talk Show web. Hopefully that's pretty clear on people's screens. And we're going to use .NET 8 Preview. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and leave these things checked, including the sample pages, the fact that we want interactive server components, interactive WebAssembly components. This is really a fancy way of the Visual Studio asking you, do you want me to leave the code in for you to do interactivity through what we used to call Blazor Server or what we used to call Blazor WebAssembly? And it can both be in the same page. And in fact, probably not today, but in the future, we'll even see how Blazor chooses for you, which is really cool. And then I like HTTPS from the start, so I'm going to hit create here, and that's it. That's it.
Cool.
Again, folks who've watched this show have seen that we've gone over the Solution Explorer. So definitely all of our shows are on YouTube, all of our previous recordings. We've got our app, and then when we get to doing client-side components, there is a client project, but we don't need that today. We are just, I mean, because again, our current site is server-side rendered and pretty static. So I think today we won't see a lot of what we needed here, but I do think we'll get to it. So, oh look, GitHub Copilot is enabled. That's cool. So let's see, is this? Oh, look at that, it is sharing. How interesting. So I think I can, I thought I was going to have to turn on that live share, but I think when I set it up, it automatically is setting that up. So I went ahead and sent Rich the link for live share. And if you're not familiar with live share is a feature that you can use in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code and if elsewhere, I'm not sure. But you install, actually, I think they install it for you now, the extension in Visual Studio IDE. But if you install the extension, then somebody in Visual Studio Code could join here, and there's a couple ways to do it. I shared a link with Rich that I hope lets him in at some point, and we'll see if we have some fun with that. Did it bite you?
Interesting, real quick experience, because when you sent it to me, I just clicked the link, and it opened in the browser.
Oh, okay.
Visual Studio Code running in the browser.
Oh,
and they gave me a pop-up and said, hey, do you want to do Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, or continue in the web? So that's kind of interesting. I had not seen that functionality work that way before.
Yeah, to be honest, I hadn't either. It's been a while since I've used live share, so it'll be cool to see how this works out. So when we look at our old site, which I think what I'll do is I think I will bring that site up in Visual Studio Code. Because this might be just a fair amount of cutting and pasting to get going. We'll see. So here's the old site. And as we can see, it was model view controller. So that means that I will want to look at the CSHTML files, and we'll go to the index page, and here it is. So thanks Visual Studio Code. That's fine. Not important right now. So oh wow, the commit was 4 years ago. Okay, so let's take a look at how the site looks right now. If I go to not www.root, I want to go to components, and in Blazor, there's already a home page home component. It looks like this, and I'm going to go ahead and run this just so we can see it. I know folks have probably seen it many times before, but let's especially if you've either been watching other ASP.NET channels, maybe watching the official channel, or maybe watching our show. So ta-da, after all that, we've got hello world, welcome to your new app. Not too exciting at the moment. So let's fix this one first. And page title. So first of all, in Blazor, we have this page directive or attribute. I'm going to have to get better at remembering the difference in which is which. But what this is saying is that this particular component, this is a Razor component, and it will be responding to requests that are just to the homepage, just to slash, So if I take a real quick, I'm going to take a quick aside, because you're going to probably hear me use some language interchangeably here. And I don't want people to get confused. And that language is when we talk about components in Blazor, you might hear me sometimes slip into official mode, right? Like, because I read the documentation and I've been listening to this for a long time, is officially components are called Razor components, officially. And it even says here, Blazor apps are built using Razor components, informally known as Blazor components or components. So to be fair, ASP.NET Core doesn't have any other type of component. It's Razor components. That's it. There's plenty of other great features like tag helpers and other stuff, but Razor components are the thing. And so it's very easy for people to call them their Blazor components or just their components. And that's fine. Like, nobody's going to get wrapped on the knuckles. It's totally fine. But the reason I bring this up is because I don't want anyone to just drives you wild if you go searching, like, where do I find the documentation on Razor components? And it turns out that in the documentation where they describe the 3 architectural styles, the 3 framework styles, Razor, Pages, MVC, and Blazor, you go down a little bit more and you get components, the overview, and everything. So that's just an aside for people who maybe you're new to Blazor and you're not 100% familiar with, like, why does Chris say Blazor components and he says Razor components, and it's because even I forget a little bit. So time to move code in. I think let's take a look at some of the code that I'm going to just paste it in just to start, and we'll decide at some differences. So first of all, I do not believe that we need this Razor syntax that sets the view data attribute to homepage, because I believe this is leftover from MVC, where if you set the title attribute in your view data collection, then MVC views automatically picked it up and set that as the page title.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here in Blazor, we have a Blazor component that does it for us, so we don't need that. I think style is fine. It's basically setting style for the whole page. Now, granted, it looks like, if I recall correctly, I think this is using Bootstrap, but we're going to find out. There's another. We'll see how it looks when we run it. That's for sure. So this next section, there was a lot of stuff going on. There's, if people remember the tagline, which certainly we're probably on the search to see if we want to keep this. Developers doing what developers do, recorded during a live stream. It says TheDevTalkShow. So that's how the site looked. And then we have some information to change here about when the show is on. Looks like we may have removed this at one point. There may have been a very good reason for it. And then that was the end of that div. And then let's see. I'm looking at the rest of it and I'm just seeing static HTML. So I think I'm just going to paste this all in here.
Okay.
And then let's see. I do not expect it to just perfectly line up because Blazor came with its own like layout. So, let's see what happens when we bring it together. Okay.
It's not bad.
So it's actually not bad, right? We're certainly missing some assets, which is okay. Instead of it being across the top, we are down to the left. We can take a look at that a little bit later. And we're definitely, it looks like for the most part, we're just missing assets.
Yeah.
So I'm going to compare that to site on the web right now. So we do have some differences here. And again, I have a feeling this comes from maybe assets or CSS that we just don't have in quite yet. Okay. So coming back to I'm going to bring in Visual Studio Code again. I hope this isn't confusing to switch back and forth. But in our www root folder, here is an image folder. I imagine this is pretty important because I can see in the code, there's all of these references to image. So let's get those into here. And for me, what I'm going to do is I am going to open a folder in File Explorer that basically represents that www root folder. Okay, so we have that. And here in Visual Studio, I actually think I'm going to do the same thing. So let's go to www root, and I think I can say open folder in File Explorer, which is cool. And what I need here, so I know, boy, that's awfully small. Can I make this bigger? I can make that a lot bigger. Hopefully that's big enough. So just File Explorer, nothing special. I'm going to make a new folder image. And let's talk a little bit, if you're totally brand new to ASP.NET, just totally brand new. In an ASP.NET project, besides having folders for code, let's change that to large icons as well. Actually, there was an extra large icons. Look at that. Besides having projects for your code, like you see our program CS is here, our CS proj, there is a www root folder where you place your static assets, which means CSS files, image files, JavaScript files can be in here. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the folder for the project we've created. It's empty. And here are all the assets that are on our site currently. I actually can't say for sure if they're all required, but that's okay. We're going to do what every great developer does, and we're going to paste them in and figure out later which ones maybe we don't need. But so here they are. So now, just by doing that, I don't even have to restart the app. I don't think. I should just be able to refresh it. And oh, look at that. It didn't do what I wanted.
So
go ahead.
Are we missing? Do we put the CSS link in there?
That's a good point. I thought maybe some of the image files might pop up, but since they didn't, let's go ahead and move CSS in as well. And it looks like I can just copy that folder in. And what's in here? Just a site.css.
Sounds
okay.
right.
We do have a fav icon, but I wonder what it is. I actually can't tell you what it is. It might, I wonder, I mean, I could just look and see. We don't have a real fav icon yet, but we could make one. Okay, so if I refresh this, is it going to change it? No. Do I have to? I would be surprised that I have to do this, but I'm going to click hot reload.
Yeah. I mean, I would check the link of the, or the, what folder structure that
that's
is
true.
pointing to.
That's true. So now we have to do some debugging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just for the heck of it, I don't think this is the case. I'm going to restart it, and then I'm going to open the developer tools, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right. So, yep, nothing still works perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to F12 tools, open the digital. Yeah, come on, open. When you hit F12, you open DevTools. That's what you do. Okay, so let's go to Elements. And let's say, woof, that's really small over there, though. able to make that a lot bigger. And let's say, I think network, if I refresh, it should show me all the 404s. Yep. So it is complaining that this is not at streamicon.ping. Maybe because well, let's go look at the code. No, it does say /image/TheDevTalkShow. Oh, but some of these may have come up. Hold on. Let's look at that again. No. So how about this one? Streamicon.ping. Where is that on this page? It's right here. So I wonder if I have to. Oh, see, I'm not even getting any help. Okay. Something interesting that I did not expect. I didn't expect this. I expected adding those folders would be fine. Mm-hmm. They're here. They're here. What if I do one of these and just see what Visual Studio wants to do for me? It kind of wants to do the same thing. Oh, no. Lowercase I, really? Oh, no, it's not. Huh, interesting. I'm a little confused why that doesn't render. Let's see. Here's where one thing I do need to do is make sure I'm checking on the comments because.
Oh, in the chat?
Yeah, just in case somebody's you missed it. Okay, so you know what's interesting is look how it's putting this dash in here too. I don't know if that's easy to see.
The tilde?
Yeah, the tilde's in there. And, you know, it's been a long time. I've kind of forgotten what all of that meant. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to do this.
Wait, you got Copilot running, right? And you just highlight it and say, fix this?
You know what? That's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. So is that really all I do is I highlight, and then if I right-click and say Ask Copilot, can I ask it a question? Okay.
Yeah, you can do /fix.
Oh, okay. I don't even have to. I don't know. No idea. Oh, is it doing it?
It's thinking, yeah.
Oh, sorry. See, I'm not patient enough.
These AIs take time. We do got some suggestions in the chat. No, I don't have feature chat up and running, but just do image/image.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. That's awesome. In fact, here's what I'm going to say. I want to make sure that we recognize that. And I had, we saw in the browser address bar that was probably it, and that this is a relic of MVC, right? This is a relic of MVC's tilde to say like, okay, well, this tells you to go to the static assets, and this is a 4-year-old project. But I kind of thought in a way, I said, I just want to see what happens here. And I think is this the answer? Is this what it's saying? And no, that's not it.
Looks kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So I completely agree that just removing this is going to do it. But when you mentioned Copilot, I thought, hey, that's it.
We should try it.
Yeah. And then I think we have some other great selections here. Is there an environment variable to specify where the static folder is? I do think that this is us. It's kind of a relic of MVC versus where in ASP.NET Core, the www root folder has always been a standard spot that says, here's where the static files are. I do think that's changeable, though. It's the kind of thing where I think it's changeable, but I bet you I've never explored it.
Because how often would you change that, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know what else? We have hi from our good friend, Alan Underwood, and the Coding Blocks podcast, which
cool.
I wish I had a link to, but
let's see if I can find it.
Absolutely. Coding Blocks. Everyone should be listening to Coding Blocks. There's just, it's the coolest discussion. There's a lot of inspiration, I think, for us too, keeping it discussion based while we also dive into code. That definitely came from that crew. So So let's get rid of all these. And hey, really appreciate everybody joining us in the comments. And part of why we're here is to work together and learn together. And even though I do things deliberately a lot of times it's because I do remember that, hey, we've got people in here who've never seen ASP.NET before. At least I hope so. So let's see when we refresh here. Oh, that didn't change anything. That surprises me. I feel like I shouldn't have to. Oh, sure enough. Okay. So now we have really huge image elements, right?
Yeah.
But clearly the images are being picked up. I missed a couple. So let's go get those fixed.
Yeah, I can fix those if you want to move.
Oh yeah, that's right, because we have live share. So
yeah. Although I keep following you, I got to unfollow you.
Oh yeah, and that just means that when I move around,
yeah,
it changes things in your view, right?
Yeah, it keeps it drags my cursor away.
So here's what's interesting here is I think when we look at our site, let's so my dog is also chiming in today. He's like, why don't you just fix it? See, so here's the thing. The other two logos, I don't believe are in here. That's the thing.
Oh
no, actually that's not true. The affiliated content is coming up. So there it is, affiliated content. Here we go. I wanted to watch you change it is what I wanted to do. I wanted to get it here in time.
Don't move because I got that one right there. So you can see where my cursor is because it says.
Right. That's right.
Except now your little tag on my side was hiding what I was doing. So there we go. Cool.
Yeah, so you were able to change one of them, and then I think there's another one. Or did you get them both? Below? Yeah. Oh, you got the Tech Bash one.
I did.
Yep. Okay. I just wanted to see if we could capture that little bit where it showed the Rich Ross change there, because I just think that's really cool. And then it's an interesting way to work together on something that's kind of non-traditional compared to what we normally do is say like, oh, we'll take my pull request or something, right? Or I merged it in. You Rich, you know that every year the We Connect the Dots Codathon is, and that's coming up. In fact, I'm going to see if
January
I can find. No, it's in December this year.
Okay. Oh, so wow.
I actually, for people watching, if you have middle school and high schoolers, right now, this is going on signups for the Codathon, ages 13 to 18, are open right now. The first week of December is going to be the Codathon, and the 3 weeks in November they have virtual training, and I actually do what we call the introductory training, which is teaching HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But then there's also some more advanced CSS styling and JavaScript, and then the students who come back multiple years, they come to a React course and they build the sites in React. The point of it is that the reason I brought this up is every year in this program, they are taught Git and GitHub because they build these sites and they're all 100% client-side static, not static, client-side SPA sites. So they run right out of GitHub pages. And what we found, every year this happens, and it happens, it's not because we hide this from them, it's just because they discover it. And I think this is the way our younger people work. Is they start by doing the whole Git thing of here, I'll merge this, I'll merge that. And then they kind of give up and they say, here, why don't you just have the code up and I will live share into you. And then the whole team just live shares in and they work together because that's what they do in either OneDrive docs or Google Docs. They're doing that already. That's already how they think. So they think that way. And then the person who's kind of like, they're hosting, they push to Git. So they look at merging and branching and they're like, what are you doing? Like, that's ridiculous. Why don't I just go fix it? And as developers, it kind of makes you cringe a little bit, but then I stop. And we've actually had this discussion as we said, we have to be open to the fact that this may be the future of development. We're watching the next generation of developers show us how they're going to use the tools. No predictions there, just interesting. Okay, so we have our homepage up. Certainly some things to fix here. It's entirely possible that part of the issue is that we don't have the we may not have the CSS loaded up correctly yet. That's fine. What I'm going to do instead of stressing about that right now is we need a second page for our about. So here are the components that we started with, our home component. And there's already this counter. We'll leave these for now. We can remove them later. And weather. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try the tooling here. Let's see how this works. If I say add a Razor component and I call it about because that's the name of the page. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay. I get a very simple Razor component that just has a tiny bit of HTML and the code section. That's cool.
Not bad.
I want the page directive, I think.
Sure. You want to be able to navigate to it. So
yeah. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. I should just let you do it. That's the whole point. That's why we're here. So Rich is going to add that in.
Right.
Okay. And then we need to have it added to
the route,
the nav menu.
Okay.
So in our nav menu, we have the home link and then counter and weather. And you can definitely do what Rich is doing here and cut and paste it. And there it is. There's 2 weathers, but he's going to fix that real quick. And I don't know that we have to do anything more because if I remember when we looked at File New Project previously and we kind of studied it to see what was going on, we found that let's see, that stuff is an app.razor. That app.razor called this routes component. And so let's just double check. Let's see what the routes razor and what routes razor does is routes razor goes and looks through. It looks through your assembly. That's what this magic code is up here. And it finds, I'm pretty sure that this is what it's doing to find pages, components that have routes. Not that you necessarily can see that there's a router component that's doing this and all these settings set that up. I sorry that if that seems a little hand wavy, hopefully it's not. So I don't think we have to do anything else. Let's see. I could be wrong. Certainly wrong many times on the show. And here we go. We've got an about page that you added. And now here's the drum roll and it went to about. So that worked. We can go home, we can go about, and then we've got what was there before. That's fine. Nice. So now we're ready to add to the about.razor because we actually had a static page here. I don't know if you want to do it or you may not have the code in front of you.
Yeah, I don't think I have it.
So I'm just going to paste in the previous code, which again, this is static. Today we are moving over the server-side rendered code, and we have some plans for interactivity in the future. So as you can see, it was just a bunch of text. Just a bunch of text. That's all it was. Interesting here that, again, a little remnant of MVC. View data's title is being thrown in. We don't need that. Nope. And I'm going to go ahead.
We did lose our page title, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it was just in H3, but...
You're right.
What? Yeah.
I went all the way back to this. There's something else, though, that's probably more important. I think it's okay to do this, but what we're missing is we're missing this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that page title is just something inherent in Blazor, right? It's a Blazor control.
It's a Blazor control that its job is to set the HTML title, which nowadays essentially just means what shows up in the browser tab.
Yeah,
that's where we've landed after all these years of HTML and browsers. And so, sure enough, it now says about, and we now have our text here. And these links used to work they're not working now, which is okay. We can fix that. And I mean, we're almost up and running here, except, you know, there's clearly some issues with maybe some of the styles. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we need to find this style sheet. It says app CSS. We have not linked our style sheet yet, which that's so interesting that look, it made a styles. This is what was created by the file new project. So let's look at what it put in here for us. It put in, oh, did I delete it? No, I didn't. Oh, wow. Did I? No. Here's app CSS. But there is no DevTalkShow web styles. I hope I didn't blow that away. I don't think I did, because otherwise...
I mean, we can pull it back, but yeah.
I don't think I did, though. I don't think I did. So site CSS is what I added. Bootstrap is here. I wonder if that's sitting there kind of to say, we could always look at another file, new project another time. App CSS has got, which I don't know that we even need, but I think I'll leave it for now. We're probably going to have to transition in order to be able to move the router, what the router's doing for us in that left side, up to the top, like it is in the DevTalkShow site today.
Yeah.
But I am not sure what effect this will have, but let's try this. Let's bring in, of course, let's bring in our CSS from old, and the two together will probably be exciting. Okay, it actually kind of did a lot of what we wanted. It seems to have tidied up the view, and in some respects, this feels like our old site, except in a way, it kind of feels like it's in a frame, so to speak.
Right.
That's not, of course, what's happening now. We would want to basically figure out just the router component just has to be rendered up here. And to me, that feels like some CSS and some looking into the app CSS that we were provided with. And
you're just trying to get
what to change. Yeah.
You're just trying to get the navigation to appear up top, right?
Yeah. Yeah. On our current, you know, this is the template, and our current page, it's just cleanly up top. And I this is all definitely possible. I'm not saying it's not possible.
Right.
I think we're seeing some interaction between different CSS going on. That's all.
Yeah, and that's why I'm wondering if it's just that you're right. It's because it's the class sidebar in there versus
right.
Sure,
and just because we're down to our last couple minutes here, I think what we want to do is, I know it went really quick today, didn't it? Is I want to see if we can create our first component, which I think just because we're already at 8:40 and standard is at 9 o'clock, I think we will see if we can create a component that renders that YouTube video, and then that'll be the beginning of our component that's reusable, where instead we'll call an API that goes and gets us our last 5 shows instead of it kind of being built in. So in components, it's not a page component. It's not a layout component. So I'm going to use add Razor component again. And I'm going to call this, right now, I'm just going to call this YouTube video. I think there will be some interesting discussions in how we should break these components apart. I imagine, like anything, you can do too much and you can do too little. That's just my guess. It's probably like everything in the world, right? So we already have this episode replay that is super awesome. And it's the one with our good friend, Carl Franklin, who met with us at Philly.net. Thrill of a lifetime to interview Carl. Obviously an inspiration for a show like this. I mean, without .NET Rocks, there is no Dev Talk Show, right? And many, many other shows, I'm sure. So what I'm going to do is, since this is the code that brings up his particular episode, at least it is, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Oh, wait, is it this one? No, you're right. This is to go to the YouTube channel. Okay. So let's look at our new component and let's paste this in. And I think I'm even going to leave it just like that for right now.
Okay.
Okay. And I know that doesn't seem all that exciting, but let's go to, I'm going to save this and save this. Let's go to home.razor. And I think we won't need this anymore. Instead, we will need our new component, which is called YouTube video. And frankly, that's it because there's no parameters or anything. Missing closed angle tag. That's fine. It's self-closing. Isn't it fine? Tell me it's fine. Oh, I see. It was suggesting it. Okay.
There you
go. Let's see if we. No, that's the old show. Sorry, old show. See you later. Sorry, old webpage. And it seems to still be here.
Awesome.
I kind of want to prove that it's the new component.
Yeah.
Because I'm that way. So I'm going to write new component in a paragraph tag. And let's take a look. Okay. At least proved that that's doing what we wanted it to do.
Yeah.
But here's what I think. I think that at least for today, I should pass in the link. The link should be, yeah. I love that Rich is nodding. Good.
I was going the same direction, but it doesn't have to be the whole link, right?
Well,
it just needs to be
right?
The video ID.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay. So let's take the video ID out.
Yeah.
And let's go to
well, we need to do something here.
There's more work to do. Yep. So
from here we need to define a parameter that can be passed in, right? Because we need the component to be, or whoever calls the component, they need to be able to see that there's a parameter to go ahead and pass that in.
Oh, look at what got suggested.
I know, right?
Huh. Okay.
I say go with it, right?
And the thing is, I made it private. I wonder if it needs to be public because it's being passed
public.
in.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it has to be YouTube video ID.
No.
And I guess we'll have a default one. And then I think it's good enough to just do this.
That video ID, right?
I just don't know for sure if that triggers it, but maybe it does.
Just one more thing, because it's probably going to be throwing, save this, and then it's probably going to be throwing a little bit of a on the page where we call this. It's going to expect us to put in that property.
Well, we have a default one though.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I think, and I took out the new component thing, so that still worked. So now let's grab another ID.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm going to do that simply by going to YouTube and getting another show here. Okay. So I'm going to leave that alone. And now we'll go back to home and we're going to say, am I getting any IntelliSense help here? Probably, except it's probably way down at the bottom. So video ID, or maybe not. I was hoping to get some IntelliSense help there. Did I call it video ID? Is that right?
It is. I think you need to square bracket parameter over top of it. Because you can declare variables inside of the code, but you still need to say this is specifically a parameter.
That's right. I
agree. Get rid of it and see if it comes back.
I just want to see if it's being picked up. That's all. Because we should be getting help from IntelliSense here.
Yep.
Maybe not. Maybe it has to be compiled. I'm not sure. So why don't we also just do this? Let's hot reload it. Oh, build errors. Bump bomb. Okay. So this could just be me not remembering our earlier shows about how to do this. It says it has to be a property, I think is what it's saying.
Okay.
Only valid on properties. Well, there you go.
Oh, but so that just means you just got to put a get set or
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So let's see. Just because my mind's going blank here. I mean, we could do this. And then can't you even do this now? Is this a thing? I'm trying to remember. It might not be.
I don't think you need to go that far. If you go to,
I don't think so either.
Just do get set, and then at the end of the get set, do equal, and the thing you want, right? That way we default it.
I was trying to remember how to do it. I was trying to remember how the default thing worked.
There you go.
Well, that's fine. Then just rebuild and apply. Sounds good to me. All right. Site's coming back up here, and we got a different episode.
Nice.
Which is what we wanted. Yep. And so that I think is step one, is that we've built our first component that now we embed in a page. So we're beginning to build our pages from components instead of what, unfortunately, I really do think a lot of Blazor demos stop a little too short, because the default site just gives you a bunch of components that are full blown, they're rendered as pages.
Yep.
And what we're trying to do is say, okay, we don't need that. What we need is we want to be able to call an API. And then after calling the API, we want to say like latest 5 episodes or latest episode or whatever.
Or maybe most watched 5 episodes.
Sure. Right. Could be the most watched, could be their latest, whatever. And now instead of having the page have code that loops through and figures that out, I would really like for a component to be able to do that. And so it really wasn't that hard. We have our HTML here. We only had to drop into Razor syntax for like a half a second. And then we have some code that makes that work. And that's pretty cool. That I think we probably started working on this maybe around 35 minutes ago or so.
Thereabouts. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. And except for a little cleanup on removing the sidebar that comes with the Blazor new project and converting it to our top bar, which frankly was just the menu bar that came with MVC. So don't, it wasn't like, wow, these guys had this design and everything. No, not really.
Yeah.
And then
what's cool is with what you did there, that IntelliSense is back in that control. So we didn't completely wire it up, right? We said we put the parameter decoration over, but it wasn't a property. So that's why on the home page, it was fuzzing a little bit. But if you do it now, you'll be able to see video ID just shows up.
Yep.
As a property.
I say, let's do YouTube video ID equals, and then what was the Carl Franklin one again?
That's the one that began with a Z, right?
Yeah.
Interestingly, so in StreamYard, in the StreamYard chat, I dropped one in there and see if that would work.
Oh, okay. Okay. In the StreamYard chat. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Private chat.
Shows what I know. Okay. Let's do this. And that's our second.
Yep.
There. And we'll hot reload took that just fine. So now I just need to find where I have this running. Unless I might have accidentally, no, because it's still running.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to believe that, because the difference there is Visual Studio will shut down. So there we go. Cool. You're right. That's today's show. How interesting. Today's show. I don't know that our component long term would look like this, but we could very quickly change that, right? We could say caption, and I think that by default we'll just go string.empty. And let's see right here where it says episode replay. Oh, wow. Wouldn't it be interesting to figure out how to deal with, well, there's some interesting thoughts there, but let's just put caption in for now, and we'll leave that as is. So now that I've done that and we reload the page, these are going to be gone. Yep, they're gone. But I could go back to home.
Yep.
And I can say caption. And we put in inappropriately, put in a, man, I can't type at all. I don't know how this is going to look, but that's okay. Yeah. And with the Carl Franklin one, we'll make it appropriately exciting. And again, I don't know how that's going to look at all. Oh, yeah. It blew up on me. Oh, you know what? I didn't. So this is great because it's easy to forget this stuff. Yep. It's saying that you didn't give it the parameter attribute. Yep. Oh. That's true because I was in such a hurry that I did not do that. That's absolutely.
I thought it was for all of those that it was listed underneath it, right?
Just being in a hurry, just being like, oh, I want to get this. This will be so cool. Oh, what are you blowing up for now? No writer
was cached.
That surprises me.
A little bit.
I'm like, what does that mean? How about what it's really telling me is it couldn't hot reload it. That's my guess. So here we go.
There you go.
Yep. So, with a little bit of like, for example, maybe a CSS grid could do the formatting for us there.
Sure.
Or you write, this would be the interesting thing. Do you write a rendering component that has multiple pieces, including, look, I know I've got the YouTube video, I've got the caption, I bring them together. Some people might argue it's overkill. It probably depends on the situation, and how much you expect the reusability. But yeah, this is awesome. Oh, but I don't have the right Carl Franklin interview. I gotta make sure I get that right. Yeah, because I left the old one in there. So we'll make this one last change for today, and you can see my high-tech way of figuring out the ID. First of all, we'll make that the default again, and set it here. And I don't know what the Razor components. I guess there is code in there, so that'd be interesting to figure out what works with hot reload and what doesn't. And there we go.
Nice.
Blazor Talk with Carl Franklin. There's a lot of interesting ideas here, though. Could the component also does it take the sizing? Do you keep the sizing separate? I don't know. That's not the development part of it. Now we're thinking about the reusability, the maintainability. Right. And frankly, I think that's one of the neat things about component-based development. And that's, I think, why our current crop of sprawl frameworks got so popular, is because they were component-based, and they said build everything from smaller to larger components. And in fact, the page itself is a component. Everything's a component. And that actually worked pretty well with Blazor, in that we were able to shift our show over in 45 minutes.
Yeah. And where's that boundary, right? How much should that component be aware of where it's going to get placed versus having that be,
should it be styled?
The parent?
Yeah. The parent styles it. It doesn't even care or know. Yeah. So that was cool. And we're on our way. And so if you've been watching us for a little while, you probably saw a stream, I don't know, several weeks ago, where we're rebuilding the Dev Talk Show in Blazor.NET 8. And on that show, we looked at .NET 8. And then we did other shows where we looked at .NET 8. And then the .NET 8 RC came out. And so we have kind of been building up to this moment. And so thank you for sticking with us. If you've been watching each of those shows, is that finally we're underway. We know that .NET 8 RC2 is also on its way soon. And in fact, for those of you watching, I want to point out, let's go to the .NET channel on YouTube. I have no idea if this means what I think it means. I really don't. So you'll just have to watch. But today's ASP.NET Community Stand-Up, today's October 10th, 2023 at 1 p.m. my time, that's Eastern time, is Dan Roth, John Galloway, and McKinnon Buck. It's curiously titled New Blazor Updates in .NET 8 RC2. So we'll see what that means. But everybody, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate this Off the Rails Gaming. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And again, what we love doing is actually working with it live, because we sure learn a lot, and your mind sure goes blank a lot too when you're working live. You do C# for over a couple decades, and then you don't remember anything when you're trying to do it live.
When the camera's on, yeah.
Yeah. It's almost 9 o'clock for us, Rich. I resume that means It's about time to get maybe grab a cup of coffee just before stand up. Thank you so much for joining and contributing in the code with live share. Super awesome. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to watch us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Follow us. If you have some questions or comments, please leave them in the comments. If you're watching in the future, thanks for joining us. And we will see all of you next time on The Dev Talk Show.